Hello again, my name is Miguel Toribio-Mateas, and I am answering some of the questions that have been sent to the organizers of the event after my session with Dr. Carol Granger. So I will pick up some of them. Some other ones were actually answered during the session, so I'll be skipping through some of them. I've just got them in front of me, and I think one of the most voted questions was about stool tests, whether they are relevant and or useful, and how to go about those, and also which one do I recommend. So I absolutely believe that having a stool test is useful in all circumstances, but particularly if you are and a lot of physical stress in the situation that you might be in with cancer. And if you haven't got cancer, or if you are not having treatment for it, and you are worried about it because you may have a really close family member who may have had it, and you want to engage in prevention, that is also a really valid use of stool tests. What I want to highlight is that stool tests are an educational tool when used by yourself as a person that is not wanting to diagnose anything from the stool test, and using them in any other way, for me, is not appropriate, not in this context. If you are working with a clinician, with a researcher as part of a clinical trial, for example, and they are telling you otherwise, absolutely, that's a different matter. But if you are doing a stool test at home and via a direct-to-consumer kind of website, and you get the results and you diagnose yourself with anything, that's wrong. And if somebody is selling you a stool test and telling you anything that is diagnostic or semi-diagnostic, it's also a little bit of a slippery slope. It's educational. It can give you cues based on the science that's available right now, and it can give you an understanding of how protected you might be for certain types of cancer. But I would actually leave that altogether out of this, and I would focus on diversity, which is one of the things that we talked about during the session. And diversity is determined by the breadth of the different bugs that actually live in your gut. And there's different ways to know how diverse your gut is. There are gold standards in finding about that diversity. And without getting too technical, the gold standard as of now is a combination of this thing called 16S sequencing, which is looking at the genetics of the gut bacteria and identifying them via that kind of mechanism, looking at a portion of the genes in bacteria called the 16S portion of the genes. And then you do a second process called next generation sequencing, which is a very precise way to identify bacteria and to quantify them as well. So the two combined are known to be the gold standard today in 2020, September 2020, to have a look at this kind of diversity of gut flora, and to identify your lactobacilli, your bifidobacteria, your Akkermansia, all of these kind of bugs that people talk about. So I am conflicted in the sense that I actually have a role as director of nutrition and health research at this company called Atlas Biomed. So you can get this test from atlasbiomed.com. And so that's the website. And if you enter this code, so YLC20, you'll get 20% off the retail. Now, what I would do with that myself is I would get 2 of these, and I would do a before and after as an experiment, again, to see what things are working, based on the fact that we know today your microbiome is changing from day to day. So trying to pinpoint anything, or trying to get very obsessive about growing your lactobacilli or growing your bifidobacteria, growing or killing something that might be opportunistic and you don't want in your gut because you've read somewhere that it's actually contributing to you feeling unwell, to disease as opposed to health. That bug might be gone in a week. So engaging in any processes, natural or drug-based, to kill bacteria on the basis of a test, very patchy as well. I can tell you, I've done loads of that in the past. I stopped doing that in the past because it's a very outdated way of working. So you take a test. It's a very simple process. A tiny amount of poo in a tiny amount in a tiny bottle. Give it a shake. Put it all in the packaging that it comes with, and once you've done that, you put it in the post and wait anything from 2 to 4 weeks, depending on how quick the labs are working now with COVID and so on, and you get your results. Now, one single test is interesting. You have an idea of the spread of bacteria that you have in your gut, whether you have lots of lactobacilli, very little lactobacilli. Again, if you're looking to supplement and you are in a position that you can safely, and again, always ask your practitioner if you are actively going through cancer and you are talking to a clinician, ask them about this kind of stuff. So always be very safe with what you're doing. But also it gives you the opportunity to take a look at different types of fiber that you might benefit from, because on the basis of your test, you might find that, okay, you're a bit short on lactobacilli, you're a bit short on, I don't know, EU bacteria. So how do you feed these guys? And then there's obviously studies that have been published based on these bugs. And we know that, a certain microbe might enjoy mushrooms, and another microbe might enjoy leeks or spring onions. So then there are some cute recommendations that are given to you based on those results. And again, they're only based on those results at that given time. You get to play around with your diet a little bit. You can use an app as well. Again, I like this kind of stuff because it's motivational. It keeps you engaged. It comes free of charge with the kit as well. You can take photos of your food and it identifies the ingredients, so you can keep a food diary, and the food diary interacts with your data, with your microbiome data. So the recommendations that you get when you have, for example, if you've been recommended asparagus and you have asparagus, you can tick it off the list, which is cool. So you basically are interacting with your own results. And you can also take a photo of a meal, and if it does have asparagus in it, the system will tell you, well done, we've identified that you're having asparagus as part of your dinner, and asparagus are good for you because they feed lactobacilli. They've been seen to feed lactobacilli. So well done. Give yourself a little clap for eating asparagus tonight. So that's something cute. It's based on science, but making it accessible to you and making it educational, because by learning, you're engaging the brain into the process of contributing to your own health. You're taking control of your own health by doing that. So very important to learn. As you were doing at the event anyway, at the weekend, you were learning in order to take some control of what's going on and to learn about how to manage your health in a better way, whether you're actually going through cancer, you have gone through cancer before, or you're preventing cancer. So all of those things are important and very important. So sorry for the sales plug, but again, you are not obliged to go with Atlas. There are hundreds of other tests out there. I have actually said I am conflicted because I work as a director for Atlas, but also I can tell you I went to work for Atlas because I like the integrity of the company, the science, the robustness of the science. I wouldn't have gone to work with any old company. So perhaps that gives you a little bit of reassurance. And that's your code. So WLC20 to get 20% off. Get a couple of tests, do another one 3 months later and see what's changed. And the beauty of that is that you can track changes. And this is quite novel with Atlas. You can track your changes on your app or on your website. And if you continue to do tests once a year, or once every 6 months, or once every 3 months, if you want to, because you're really motivated, then you at least see what is going on. You can adjust your diet in a way that responds to what you're doing. Your gut bacteria responds to what you're doing. So that was the most voted question in the whole of the session. There was also another question that was really voted and came up to the top. Am I concerned about the overuse of hand sanitizer for COVID prevention and its effect on the microbiome and hence on immune health? I am and I'm not, because you are obviously putting something on your hands constantly, and your hands have got microbes, but you need to take this into consideration. You outweigh the potential risk of picking up COVID from a surface where it might be living on. So I would say it should be risk neutral in that sense, because if you're taking into account the risk that you're minimizing by using the sanitizer, I would think that that is risk neutral. If you were exposing a large amount of your skin to a sanitizer that is removing your own microbiome, so let's say that hypothetically you were bathing yourself in sanitizer, coming out of a bath and rubbing it all over your body, that probably is going to be a little bit tricky, because you're engaging your whole detoxification system in your body, your lymphatics, your liver, to take care of those the chemicals in the product that you're putting in your skin. And there are sanitizers that have got all sorts of things added to them, like triclosan, for example. Try to go with something that is quite simple, that's got alcohol and or a little bit of peroxide base sanitizer, which are pretty innocuous. And apart from just making your hands a little bit dry, they're probably going to be very non-toxic, as opposed to something with triclosan, which is again an anti-germ kind of ingredient used in loads of sanitizers, and that has got mixed reviews. Again, I'm not one for alarming anybody, but I would choose something just based on alcohol, ethanol. So that would be my advice. And there were another couple of questions on diversity, and we talked about this a lot, but I thought to just share a couple of insights with you. So how to start improving the breadth of strains of bacteria in the gut and how to keep them fed. So if you don't have a clue what you're dealing with, you can only guess. And that's why, because test prices have become quite affordable for most people, to at least have one and see what's going on, I would have a test. And then at least you know what is going on. You know where you're starting from. Because if you happen to be one of those lucky people that whatever happens in your life, whether you've had chemotherapy, antibiotics, whatever, you have a very resilient microbiome. And there is such a thing as a resilient microbiome that withstands all sorts of stresses. Then you have to still work on it, but you work on it in a different way. If you are very depleted and the diversity is very low, and the kinds of bugs that are going to protect you and give you better chances of recovery and health going forward, if they are really low in your microbiome and you know that, then you can do something extra to protect that integrity of your gut. So I would say the most important thing would be to have a test, because otherwise you can only just think, okay, eat the rainbow. So eat different colors every day, a little bit of everything, some fermented foods if you can tolerate them, and if you're in a position of safety to do that, if you're not immunocompromised. And you just need to guess that according to how you feel, your body's telling you, you're feeling better. So if you trust that intuition, absolutely fine. If you want to know more scientifically what is going on in your gut, then that's the way to do it. Take a test. We talked about some fermented foods already in the session. I have to say kefir is one of my favorite ones, and you can make kefir very quickly at home if you don't want to just buy it from the shops all the time. So if you have access to a pot of kefir, shop-bought kefir, pasteurized, is fine, because it will still have all of the live bacteria. You'll know because it gets tortilla the more you leave it in the fridge. You can just add that to any milk, whether it's dairy milk or oat milk. So if you haven't got a dairy intolerance per se, but you aiming to reduce the amount of dairy because you've been told that is good in your case, again, follow the advice of your practitioners you're working with, or your intuition if you're not working with any practitioner, but you know that dairy is not really agreeing with you. If you want to inoculate some oat milk or almond milk with kefir, You just basically put a spoonful of kefir. If you're obviously doing non-dairy kefir, get a non-dairy kefir to start with. So get coconut kefir, is available in the shops. Put a little bit of that. So normally with non-dairy, I would put a little bit more, a couple of tablespoons in a bottle equivalent to about a pint. Give it a shake. Oat milk, almond milk. I'm not too sure about soy milk. I don't know whether it's good enough for that, not sweet enough. And just put it in your airing cupboard overnight, about 20 hours, 24 hours. So obviously 2 o'clock today, 2 o'clock tomorrow. And see the flavor will already be changing. There might be some curding as well, which is basically telling you the bacteria are eating things and making that a fermented milk. It's very easy. And if you're doing it with your own dairy milk, then the same process. So this is just very doable. Otherwise, just get it from the shop. But kefir is for me, it's really, really interesting. Loads of bacteria. We talked about fermented foods, but there were loads of questions about kimchi, kombucha, fermented foods, and their influence on the gut. And I think the key things to remember is that these foods are not miracle foods that are going to suddenly replenish the whole of your bacteria in your gut. They're going to add an angle, and your gut is going to decide how much of those bacteria it can take, which ones are interesting for them to stay in your gut. So your gut is going to have its own characteristics, its own pH, its own environment, full of other microbes that will regulate themselves because they fight with each other. And it's a healthy kind of a competition. So don't just think that more is better. And sometimes a spread of these foods. So if you have sauerkraut made with different ingredients, then that's going to be better to have 3 or 4 different types of sauerkraut in your fridge than to have just one, and to have loads of one only. So and there were loads of questions that were a little bit more individual. So I think that's probably the ones that I'm going to dedicate this extra video to. But I do hope that you find these answers useful. Think about the concept of diversity and the little bits, that it doesn't need to be a lot of things all the time, so you don't overload your system. Think about the fact that even a teaspoon of sauerkraut made with apple and celery and fennel will count towards something. And then you have a teaspoon of another sauerkraut made with cabbage and red onion, and that will give you another little edge based on the antioxidants, the polyphenols, the fiber. The actual brine, the vinegar, salty brine that is in there is carrying all those products that the bacteria are actually making inside the bottle. So think about the element of diversity as opposed to quantity, and don't overload your body with suddenly loads of fiber if you just started with this process, particularly if you are feeling delicate and you've been compromised because of treatment. I hope to see you again soon. Thank you again to the organizers for having me. It was a wonderful session. Thanks again to Carol Granger. A special thanks to Versha Carter, the organizer behind the scenes, because she's been wonderful. And take care. All the best. Enjoy the sessions tonight, Monday. And I hope to see you at the October session when I'm talking to Dr. Walter Longo about fasting mimicking. So I'll see you then. All the best. Bye-bye.